Hi, I'm Diane Macedo. We have breaking news. The Justice Department confirms journalist Don Lemon has been arrested in connection to an anti-ICE protest at a Minnesota church. Earlier this month, protesters interrupted worship services at City's Church in St. Paul, where one of the pastors leads the local ICE field office. Now, Lemon is the latest person to face potential charges for allegedly violating worshipers' First Amendment rights. ABC's Trevor Ault has the latest.
Hey there, Diane. So this was pretty shocking news to hear announced from Don Lemon's attorney that he was taken into custody overnight here in Los Angeles. They say he was here covering the Grammys, but the arrest stems from an incident earlier this month in Minneapolis, a protest at a church where the pastor is an ICE agent. Now, we know that the Trump administration had been trying to charge 8 people in that incident, including Don Lemon and his producer, saying that they were impeding on the religious rights of the people there at the church. But Don Lemon has said he was there as a journalist along with his producer. We know a magistrate judge reviewed the evidence in the case, declined the charges for Lemon and his producer and a few other people who were there. The Trump administration tried to appeal, and a federal judge also upheld the ruling that the charges were not allowed. Now, this would indicate that an arrest now has been made. An indictment must have followed. We've heard a statement, a tweet from the Attorney General, who said that the arrest of Don Lemon and a few other people overnight were made at her direction. We're still waiting on the official details of that indictment. What we do know is that Don Lemon's attorney released a statement calling this an unprecedented attack on free speech, and we are expecting to see Don Lemon in court a little bit later here today in Los Angeles. Diane?
Trevor Ault, thank you. And let's bring in ABC News legal analyst Brian Buckmeyer for more. Brian, last week a magistrate judge reportedly rejected bringing charges against Lemon. And now the Attorney General says federal agents arrested Lemon at her direction. Why the change?
I think the change is just the avenue in which the DOJ is pursuing charges. They first initially went through a judge to see if they could okay not only the arrest, but I'm assuming also okay any kind of search of Don Lemon as well as potentially his producer to see if there's additional evidence of other charges. Now it seems like they're going for an arrest through a complaint, and then I think they're going to try to secure an indictment either by already presenting this case to a grand jury rather than going through a judge or doing so in the future. We'll see whether or not an indictment is unsealed today to see what path they went about arresting Don Lemon.
The case centers on the FACE Act, which makes it a crime to intimidate or interfere anyone exercising their religious freedom at a place of worship. How does that apply to the protesters in this case compared to journalists who covered the protest?
Yeah, so FACE stands for the freedom of access to clinical entrance. It makes it a violation not only to obstruct a person to going in and out of a clinic, but also there's a section that involves violating a person's ability to exercise their First Amendment in regards to freedom of religion and religious worship. I don't see how it applies here. I think it's a bit of a stretch. I think that's why not just one, but 2 judges rejected it, because you would have to show that Don Lemon had the intent, I think, to at least obstruct individuals from being able to come in and out of that worship in violation of their constitutional rights. But fortunately for him, he live streamed this. And typically I would tell people, don't stream things, you're getting close to committing a crime. But this live stream would show his intent, that he intended not to obstruct people or deny their religious rights, but actually to use his First Amendment right to try to see what was going on, ask people questions, and get the reaction. So I don't really see a violation of the FACE Act here.
The Justice Department's also using a Reconstruction-era law meant to crack down on the Ku Klux Klan. They argue journalists can't conspire to violate worshipers' rights. How strong is their case?
Yeah, so this law was meant to stop people, as you said, from the KKK, of disguising themselves and conspiring with 2 or more people to inhibit or violate another person's constitutional rights. Again, if you look at this fact pattern, if you're speaking specifically to Don Lemon and his producer, I don't see where you're saying that the 2 of them conspired to violate someone else's rights through the use of disguise or any kind of means that fall into the law. Again, it seems pretty clear. We all know who Don Lemon is. He's not disguising himself. We all know what his intent is there. He's trying to get information. Again, I think the issue of intent makes these prosecutions fall short unless there's some other evidence that we don't see yet.
ABC News legal analyst Brian Buckmeyer, thank you.